September 2nd, 2001. I had just escaped the abandoned Whitehurst Asylum, a place of nightmares that John Kramer, otherwise known as Jigsaw, had used for his twisted and deadly games.
I had been brought there because of my obsession with catching Jigsaw, an obsession that had cost me dearly. As I stumbled out of the asylum, my mind was racing with the events that had led me here. It had been an endless cycle of obsession and destruction, and I had lost everything that had ever mattered to me: my police badge, my wife, my son, and my partner. I made my way back to my apartment, my mind still replaying the traumatic events of the past 24 hours. The apartment was dingy and run down, a far cry from the home I had once shared with my family. I collapsed onto the couch in my living room, feeling drained and exhausted both physically and mentally. I put my head in my hands and tried to collect my thoughts, desperately trying to make sense of everything that had happened. I sat there for a long while, the only sound in the apartment being the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. I was lost in my own thoughts, replaying the events of the past few days over and over again in my mind. As I sat there in my apartment, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of remorse and guilt for what my obsession had caused. I had been so consumed by my pursuit of Jigsaw that I had lost sight of everything else in my life. I thought about my family and the damage I had inflicted on them. I had torn apart their lives with my single-minded pursuit of justice, and in the end I had failed to catch Jigsaw and bring him to justice. Not only did I feel guilty for what had happened to my family, but I also deeply regretted the death of my partner, Detective Singh. He had been a good man and a good friend, and I had put his life in danger with my reckless pursuit of Jigsaw. I had convinced him to help me with the investigation, and now he was dead because of it. The weight of that thought weighed heavily on my conscience, and I couldn't shake the feeling that his death was my fault. The thought of Melissa, Singh's wife, only added to my guilt and remorse. I couldn't blame her for being vengeful and hateful towards me. After all, I had been the reason why her husband was dead. I had saved her from one of Jigsaw's traps called the Iron Maiden, but I had failed to save her husband. She had every right to blame and hate me for what had happened. I knew I would have to face Melissa sooner or later, and the thought filled me with a sense of dread. I knew she would want answers and justice for her husband's death, and I wasn't sure if I was strong enough to face the brunt of her anger and pain. I sat there in my apartment, lost in thought and consumed by guilt and regret. I knew I had to face the consequences of my actions, but I wasn't sure where to start. I felt like I was drowning in my own emotions, and I wasn't sure how to find my way out. I desperately wanted to make things right again, to undo the damage I had caused and to try to make amends for my obsession and the suffering it had brought upon others. But I didn't know how. I knew that I couldn't bring back my wife and son or my partner, Detective Singh, but I wanted to do something, anything, to try to atone for my past mistakes and make up for the hurt I had caused. I spent a long time deep in thought, trying to figure out what I could do to make things right again and how I could atone for my mistakes. But no matter how hard I thought, I couldn't come up with anything that would actually make a difference. I felt helpless and lost, feeling like I was drowning in my own guilt and regret and powerless to do anything about it. I headed to the kitchen and started to cook myself dinner, hoping that the familiar and comforting routine would help me relax and clear my mind a bit. I cooked up a steak with some noodles and sat down to eat, trying to lose myself in the simple act of eating and hopefully give myself some time to think. As I ate, I tried to focus on the present and enjoy the meal, but my thoughts kept drifting back to the past and all the mistakes I had made. I tried to force myself to focus on the food in front of me and the act of eating, but the guilt and remorse were still weighing heavily on my mind. As I chewed and swallowed, I couldn't help but think about the people I had hurt and let down because of my obsession. I thought about my family, my partner, and all the innocent people Jigsaw had hurt, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was all my fault. As I sat there eating, a memory suddenly popped into my mind. I had heard stories about a powerful and legendary hero known as Avatar Thanos, a guardian god-like protector of the universe who was created and sent by God himself to protect the galaxy. I had never given much thought to the stories before, but now I found myself wondering if there was any truth to them. I had always thought that heroes like Avatar Thanos were fictional, just characters in stories and legends. But now, Sitting there alone in my apartment, I found myself almost wishing that the stories were true. I wanted to believe that there was someone out there who could help me make things right again. Someone powerful and strong enough to take on a monster like Jigsaw.
I felt a rush of excitement and hope as I decided to try to summon Avatar Thanos.
I had no idea if it would work, but at that point I was desperate for any help I could get. I closed my eyes and gathered my thoughts, focusing all of my energy on summoning the powerful guardian hero. I whispered a prayer to myself, hoping that the stories were true and that Avatar Thanos would hear my plea and come to my aid. I knelt down, getting into the praying pose, and closed my eyes tightly.
I clutched my hands together and spoke quietly but firmly, saying, "Avatar Thanos, I summon you. Please listen to my call and come to my aid." I felt a sense of hope and anticipation well up within me as I spoke, crossing my fingers and hoping that the legendary guardian hero would hear my plea and appear before me. As I spoke, I suddenly felt a shift in the air. A strange energy began to build up in the living room, and a small glowing orb of energy appeared out of thin air, floating in the middle of the room. I stared at the orb, my eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Could it be? Was this Avatar Thanos responding to my call? The orb of energy began to twist and turn, and a portal formed in its place, a swirling, shimmering vortex of light and energy. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the portal, my heart racing with anticipation and nervous excitement. This was it. Avatar Thanos was coming. The portal continued to swirl and glow, and after a moment, a large, imposing figure stepped out of the portal. I gasped in shock and awe as I watched Avatar Thanos emerge from the portal, his strong and powerful frame towering over me. This was the legendary hero himself, the protector of the universe, standing right in my living room. I couldn't believe my eyes. Avatar Thanos was standing right in front of me, his eyes burning with a fierce intensity. He was even more impressive in person than the stories had made him out to be, and I felt a mix of awe and terror wash over me as I stood before him. As I stared at Avatar Thanos in awe and disbelief, I noticed several details about his appearance that only served to reinforce his legendary status. His eyes were glowing a bright, intense white, and his golden armor was gleaming in the light. And the most eye-catching detail of all was the Infinity Gauntlet on his hand, the Infinity Stones glowing and radiating a powerful energy. I felt a sense of both fear and awe wash over me as I looked at the Infinity Stones. They were the most powerful objects in the universe, capable of bending reality and shaping the universe to their will. And they were all on one gauntlet, strapped to the hand of the most powerful being in the universe. I took a deep breath to calm myself down, then looked up at Avatar Thanos and tried to explain my situation. I told him the truth about my obsession with John Kramer, or Jigsaw as he was known, and how it led to my family and partner being torn apart. I tried to explain how I had lost everything because of my obsession, and how I desperately wanted to make things right again. As I spoke, I felt a sense of desperate pleading in my voice. I needed help, and I hoped that Avatar Thanos would listen to my plight and offer me some sort of aid or guidance. Relief flooded through me as I heard Avatar Thanos say that he would help me. I let out a sigh of relief and felt a weight lift off my shoulders, grateful that I had successfully summoned the legendary hero and that he was willing to listen to me and offer assistance. My eyes widened in surprise and disbelief as Avatar Thanos spoke. He said that he would bring back Detective Singh from the dead and help me reunite with my family. Tears began to well up in my eyes as I processed his words. It seemed too good to be true. Could this actually be happening?
My heart was pounding in my chest, and a mixture of hope and desperation filled me. If this was real, if Avatar Thanos could actually bring my partner back from the dead and help me reconnect with my family, it would mean everything to me. I looked up at Avatar Thanos with pleading eyes, begging him to really mean what he said. I knew it was a lot to ask, but I had no other options, and I was willing to do anything to make things right again. I nodded, my heart fluttering with hope and anticipation. Avatar Thanos had promised to help me, and he said he always stuck to his word. I had no reason to doubt him, especially now that I was standing in the presence of the most powerful being in the universe, a guardian hero who could literally bend reality to his will. I watched in awe as Avatar Thanos clenched his hand, the Infinity Stones glowing brighter and producing a power-up sound effect.
It was a display of raw, immense power, and it felt like the very air around us was crackling with energy and tension. I knew that Avatar Thanos was tapping into the power of the Infinity Stones, drawn upon their vast and incredible energies to do something, but what, I didn't know. All I could do was watch and wait, my heart pounding in my chest with a mix of excitement and trepidation. As Avatar Thanos continued to call upon the power of the Infinity Stones, lightning began to flicker in the sky outside, and thunder rumbled in the distance. It was like the very elements were responding to the raw might and power of the guardian hero, the air itself becoming charged and electric with energy. I watched in stunned awe as the power of the Infinity Stones seemed to ripple out and affect the very environment around us. The energy and tension in the air were almost palpable, and I could feel my heart racing faster with every crack of lightning and thunderous boom that echoed through the room. I couldn't believe that such a small, seemingly ordinary apartment could contain so much power. It felt like the walls themselves were vibrating with the energy that was being unleashed, and I could sense that something big and incredible was about to happen. I couldn't believe that such a small, seemingly ordinary apartment could contain so much power. It felt like the walls themselves were vibrating with the energy that was being unleashed, and I could sense that something big and incredible was about to happen. The sky outside my apartment suddenly lit up with a bright, intense explosion. It was like a massive bolt of lightning had struck from above, only 100 times more intense and powerful. It filled the room with a blinding light and sent a shock wave rippling through the air, shaking my apartment to its very foundations. I shielded my eyes from the brightness, my heart racing in my chest. The explosion had been so sudden and unexpected, and the force of it was still rippling through the apartment, sending objects flying and shaking the walls and furniture. I felt a mix of fear and wonder, my mind racing to try and make sense of what was happening. Had Avatar Thanos done something? Was this the effect of his attempt to bring back Detective Singh and reconnect me with my family? I froze, my heart skipping a beat as I heard the doorbell ring. I hadn't been expecting anyone, especially not in the midst of this strange and powerful display of energy and power. I cautiously made my way to the door, my mind filled with curiosity and trepidation. Who could be on the other side, and why were they ringing the doorbell now, of all times? I stopped in front of the door, taking a deep breath to calm my racing thoughts and steady my nerves. I reached out a trembling hand and grasped the doorknob, my heart beating loudly in my chest as I prepared to open it and discover who was waiting on the other side. I couldn't believe my eyes as I opened the door and saw Detective Singh standing there in front of me. It was as if he had risen from the dead, standing there, just as I remembered him, outside my apartment door. For a moment, I was too stunned to speak, my mind racing as I tried to process the impossible sight before me. I couldn't believe my eyes as I opened the door and saw Detective Singh standing there in front of me. It was as if he had risen from the dead, standing there, just as I remembered him, outside my apartment door. For a moment, I was too stunned to speak, my mind racing as I tried to process the impossible sight before me. Tears welled up in my eyes as I looked at Detective Singh, my heart filled with a mix of shock, disbelief, and sheer happiness. I had never expected to see him alive again, and yet here he was, standing before me, flesh and blood, as if nothing had ever happened to him. Without a word, I reached out and threw my arms around him, pulling him into a tight embrace. I couldn't believe it. He was really there, alive and well, standing in front of me. It felt like a dream come true. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I held on to Detective Singh, my head buried in his shoulder as I clutched him tightly, not wanting to let go. I wanted to hold on to this moment, to savor the feeling of his arms around me and the knowledge that he was truly alive and well. Detective Singh smiled down at me, his familiar warm smile filling me with comfort and hope. He spoke, his voice soft and genuine, saying, "It's great to see you again." Hearing those words from him, his familiar voice sounding so real and alive, filled me with a mix of happiness and disbelief. It was as if he had never even died, as if this was just a normal, everyday meeting between us. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders as Detective Singh spoke. He not only told me that it was great to see me again, but he also forgave me, completely and without reservation. Tears of relief and gratitude welled up in my eyes as his words sunk in. He truly did not blame me for what had happened, and he had come to stand by my side once again, a comrade and a friend. As Singh and I continued to talk, I decided to tell him about his wife, Melissa, and how she had become vengeful towards me after his death. I explained how she blamed me for what had happened, and how she had treated me with anger and hostility since then. Singh listened intently, his expression becoming serious as I spoke. He seemed to take the news hard, understanding the pain and anger that his wife must have been feeling in the wake of his death. I continued to speak, telling Singh about how Melissa's anger had caused her to neglect their son, and how she had ended up in one of Jigsaw's traps, the Iron Maiden, and how I had saved her from it. Singh's expression grew more and more shocked and concerned as I spoke, clearly upset by the information I was sharing with him. When I finished speaking, there was a moment of silence as Singh digested everything I had said. I could see the mixture of feelings and emotions playing across his face, the concern and sympathy for his wife and son, and the guilt and helplessness at not being there to help them. Finally, Singh spoke, his voice quiet but firm. I have to go see them. I have to see my son and my wife. They must be hurting and confused, and I need to be there for them. I nodded, understanding his desire to be reunited with his family after all that had happened. I also felt a pang of guilt and regret, knowing that I had played a part in their pain and suffering, even though it had not been my intention. I knew that I couldn't just stand in the way of Singh being reunited with his family, even though I was feeling a little unsure and uncertain about what would happen when he saw Melissa. Singh handed me a police badge, and I looked down at it in surprise and a feeling of disbelief. The police force wanted me back after all that had happened because I had called Avatar Thanos to help me. It seemed too good to be true, but Singh's face was serious and sincere as he explained. The police force has heard what you did, Singh said. You called the hero himself to help you, and they're impressed. They want you back on the force as part of the team. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything I had been through, after all the pain and suffering I had caused myself and others, the police force was offering me a second chance. It was almost too good to be true, but Singh's expression was serious, and I knew he wasn't joking. Tears welled up in my eyes as I took the badge, my fingers trembling a bit as I held it. This was an opportunity I never thought I would have again. A chance to make amends for my mistakes and rebuild my life in a positive way. Singh smiled and waved goodbye to me, then turned and walked out of the apartment, heading off to reunite with his wife and child. I watched him go, my heart heavy with mixed emotions, both happiness and trepidation. As I watched Singh leave, I heard the sound of footsteps on the stairs coming closer and closer. I froze, my heart skipping a beat as I wondered who else could be coming to my apartment at this late hour. As the footsteps grew louder and clearer, I realized that there was not one person coming up the stairs, but rather two. My mind raced with possibilities and worries, wondering who these two people could be and what they wanted. As I saw Kara and Michael come around the corner, I felt a wave of relief and disbelief wash over me. I had been so focused on the situation with Avatar Thanos and Detective Singh that I had almost forgotten about the fact that I had called my family back to life as well. Kara's smile was broad and bright as she came towards me, her arms outstretched in greeting. Michael followed behind her, looking a bit shy, but happy to be reunited with me as well. Tears of joy and happiness streamed down my face as I rushed towards my family, wrapping my arms around Kara and pulling her into a tight hug. She held me close, her arms around me, and I could feel the warmth and strength of her embrace as she clutched me tightly. I turned to Michael, who was standing awkwardly to the side, and pulled him into the hug as well. He was a bit stiff at first, but then he melted into the embrace, wrapping his arms around us both. It felt like a dream come true, to have my wife and son back in my arms once again, and I was overwhelmed with gratitude and joy. I pulled away from the embrace, looking at Kara and Michael with a mixture of guilt and regret in my eyes. I knew that my obsession had caused a lot of pain and suffering for them, and I needed to apologize for that. Taking a deep breath, I looked at Kara first, then at Michael and spoke, my voice soft and remorseful. "I'm sorry," I said, my eyes filling with tears. "I'm sorry for everything I put you both through because of my obsession." Kara looked at me with understanding eyes, her expression gentle and compassionate. She spoke, her voice quiet but firm. "I know you're sorry," she said, "and I know you didn't mean for any of this to happen. You don't have to apologize." Michael nodded in agreement, his face serious but his eyes forgiving. "We know you didn't mean to hurt us," he said, his voice earnest. "We still love you and we forgive you." I turned to Avatar Thanos with a feeling of gratitude and awe, a mix of emotions all swirling together in my chest. My family was back. We were reunited thanks to his powers and his willingness to help. Avatar Thanos met my gaze, his expression stoic and unwavering, and he gave me a silent thumbs up, as if to say, "Well done." I smiled back at him, a gesture of thanks and appreciation, before turning back to my family, my heart full of love and hope as we all stood together in the room, reunited and whole once more. As Avatar Thanos disappeared, a puff of smoke filling the room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and disbelief. It was hard to believe that someone with such incredible powers had been standing in my apartment just a few moments ago, helping me to bring my family back to life. I turned to Kara and Michael, taking in their presence and marveling at the fact that they were really there, truly alive, and well once more. We spent the rest of the night together, catching up and talking about everything that had happened since I had lost them. It was a chance to heal old wounds and build new bonds, to start anew and move forward as a family once more. We moved to the living room of the apartment, sitting down on the couch and relaxing as we continued to chat and catch up on lost time. Kara had a lot of questions, wanting to know everything about how I had brought her and Michael back to life. I explained it as best I could, telling her about Avatar Thanos and the Infinity Stones. Michael listened quietly, taking in everything I said with wide eyes. I could see the disbelief and wonder in his expression as he tried to process the idea of a hero with powers so immense that he could bring back the dead. As we talked, I could feel a sense of peace and contentment settling over me. I was with my family, my wife and my son, and even though I had gone through a lot to get us back together, it was all worth it in the end. I had my loved ones with me once again, safe and sound. As we sat in the living room, I looked around the apartment with a critical eye. It was still messy and chaotic from my obsession with Jigsaw, with pictures and notes scattered all over the walls and floor. I felt a pang of guilt and shame seeing the evidence of my obsession all around me. I had let my quest for justice consume me, and it had left my home and my life in disarray. I realized that it would be best to start fresh, to leave the memories of my obsession and my struggles with Jigsaw behind me. I wanted to create a peaceful and comfortable environment for my family, somewhere away from the noise and chaos of the city. I made the decision to sell the apartment and look for a nice suburban house outside the city, a place where my family could live in safety and contentment. I knew it wouldn't be easy. It would take time and effort to find the right home and move all our belongings, but it was worth it if it meant a better life for my family. I was determined to make it work, to build a new future for us all and leave the past behind. I set to work, throwing away all the pictures and notes about Jigsaw and cleaning up the molds and dirt that had accumulated during my obsession. It felt good to get rid of the reminders of my painful and tumultuous past, to clean up the physical evidence of my struggles and start fresh. As I worked, my family helped out as well, pitching in to tidy up the apartment and help me clean up the mess that I had created. It was a collective effort, and it felt like we were all working together to build a new future, free from the shadows of the past. As the evening approached, I decided to cook one final meal in the apartment before we sold it and moved on. I wanted it to be a special dinner, a meal that would symbolize the start of a new chapter in our lives. The rain continued to come down outside, adding a cozy and comforting atmosphere to the apartment as I cooked up a classic steak dinner for my family, complete with rice, corn, and a fresh salad. As we sat down together at the dinner table, I felt a sense of peace and warmth as we shared the meal together, the rain pattering against the windows outside. It was a simple moment, but also profoundly profound, a glimpse into the new life that we were building together as a family. We ate and talked, reminiscing about the past and talking about the future. I could feel the bond between us growing stronger with each passing minute. The pain and turmoil of the past slowly faded, replaced by hope and optimism for what lay ahead. As we ate, Michael and Kara talked about their respective careers, each of them excited and enthusiastic about the work they were doing. Michael spoke about how he had become a well-respected journalist and a popular news anchor, his career in the media industry taking off and gaining momentum. Kara talked about her work as a nurse, her passion for helping others and making a difference in people's lives shining through in her words. I listened to them talk with a smile on my face, feeling proud of their accomplishments and happy to see them doing well. It was a stark contrast to the chaos and darkness that had come before, and it filled me with a sense of hope and contentment for the life we were building together. After dinner was finished, we headed down to the front desk of the apartment building to sell the apartment. It felt strange and a little sad, saying goodbye to a place that had been my home for so long, but I knew it was the right decision for us to move forward. The transaction went smoothly, and soon we had handed over the keys and said our farewells to the building and our old life. As we stepped out into the now calm night, I felt a sense of relief and freedom wash over me. The apartment was no longer a reminder of my struggles and pain, but rather a symbol of the past that we had left behind. We headed out of the apartment complex and over to my brown Hummer, piling into the car and buckling our seatbelts. As I started the engine and pulled out onto the road, I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation building up inside me. We were leaving the city behind us and heading to a new and better life, a future filled with hope and promise. We drove through the city streets, the rain continuing to come down in a steady drizzle. As we passed by familiar buildings and landmarks, I couldn't help but feel a pang of nostalgia and sadness. I knew that we were leaving behind a chapter of our lives, and that some things would never be the same again. But at the same time, I was excited for the new adventures and experiences that lay ahead of us. After driving through the city for a while, we finally left the urban landscape behind us and entered a quiet and peaceful suburban town just outside of the city. As we entered the town, I felt a sense of tranquility and contentment wash over me. The suburbs were a far cry from the hustle and bustle of the city, and I could already feel myself relaxing as we drove through the quiet streets and well-kept homes. As we drove through the town, I suddenly spotted a nice big suburban house with a for sale sign on it. I slowed the car to a stop and parked it on the side of the road, my eyes fixed on the house. The house was huge and spacious, with a beautiful front yard and a white picket fence. I could immediately imagine my family living there, creating a new home and memories in this peaceful suburban setting. As I looked at the for sale sign on the house, I was pleasantly surprised to see that the asking price was only $20. I couldn't believe our luck. The house was in great condition and the utility bills were incredibly low, only $20 every 2 months. I looked over at Kara and Michael, their eyes widening in surprise and disbelief. This was too good to be true. I knew that we had found our new home, and I was eager to make it ours. I could already picture us moving in, decorating the rooms and making the house our own, building a new life together in this beautiful suburban setting. Without hesitation, I pulled out my wallet and bought the house on the spot. It was a steal, a beautiful and well-maintained home for such a ridiculously low price. As the purchase was finalized, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation building up inside me. We had bought a new home, a beautiful suburban house where we could create a new life and happy memories together. We walked into the house, the keys in hand, and were immediately struck by how spacious and well-furnished it was. It was fully furnished with everything we could need, from cozy sofas to fully stocked kitchen cupboards. I looked around in disbelief and amazement, marveling at our good fortune and the incredible deal we had gotten on such a beautiful home. Kara and Michael were equally impressed, their eyes wide with awe as they looked around the home, taking in the comfortable and inviting atmosphere. We all fell silent for a moment, simply taking in the sight of our new home, before a feeling of excitement and joy erupted, and we all began to smile and laugh with glee. We moved around the house, exploring each room and marveling at the different spaces and features. The living room was cozy and comfortable, the kitchen was fully stocked and modern, and the bedrooms were spacious and inviting. It was like a dream come true, a perfect home that felt like it was tailor-made for us. As we continued to explore the house, we discovered 3 separate home offices, one for each of us. Each office was painted a cozy red color and had a plush brown carpet on the floor, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. There was also a desk and computer already set up in each office, ready for us to use for work or leisure. I couldn't believe the thoughtfulness and generosity of whoever had prepared this house for us, providing us with everything we needed to work and relax in comfort and style. As the evening settled in, the rain outside continued to fall, creating a calming and soothing atmosphere through the windows. We all got comfortable in our new home, settling down for the night and taking in the peaceful surroundings. The sound of the rain and the cozy atmosphere of the house, complete with plush carpets and comfortable furniture, all contributed to a perfect environment for relaxation and tranquility. I could feel the stress and tension of our past experiences and struggles slowly melting away as we sank down into the soft couches and relaxed in each other's company. It was a welcome relief to be able to unwind and rest in such a cozy and comfortable setting, and I could feel myself letting go of the weight of the past as we settled in for the night. Kara and Michael also relaxed, sitting down on the sofa. The peaceful atmosphere and the cozy surroundings had a calming effect on all of us, and we were all feeling more relaxed and at ease than we had been in a long time. As the evening wore on, I decided to switch on the TV and see what was on. I flicked through the channels, looking for something interesting to watch, and found myself watching a funny sitcom. The show provided a lighthearted distraction from the events of the past, and I found myself laughing and enjoying the show, grateful for the moment of entertainment and relaxation. Kara and Michael sat with me, also watching the show and laughing along with the jokes and gags. The sound of their laughter and the warmth of their presence added to the cozy and comfortable atmosphere of the house, and for a moment everything felt perfect. We watched the show for a while, immersed in the silly antics and humorous situations unfolding on screen. The worries and concerns of the world outside seemed to melt away as we focused on the fictional world of the sitcom, and for a short time we were able to forget all of our problems and just enjoy the moment. As the show ended and we all relaxed on the couch, I decided to watch some body cam videos. I figured there would be plenty of new material to look at after all the time I had been away from the force, and I was eager to keep up with all the latest crime in action. Kara and Michael remained on the couch with me, curious to see what kind of body cam videos I had brought up on the screen. We watched the body cam videos together, marveling at the variety and intensity of the scenes unfolding before us. There were high-speed car chases, heated shootouts, and frantic arrests, all captured on camera and providing a window into the chaotic world of law enforcement. Michael was particularly riveted, watching with wide eyes and a look of awe on his face. He had always been interested in crime and law enforcement, and he was completely absorbed in the body cam videos, hanging on every moment in detail. Kara was a little more squeamish, wincing and gasping at the violence and danger unfolding on the screen, but she didn't look away, fascinated and horrified at the same time by the intense scenes playing out before us. I watched the body cam videos with a mixture of professional interest and personal emotion. I had always lived and breathed law enforcement, and I found myself analyzing every move and decision made by the officers on the screen, assessing whether they had handled the situations correctly or not. After spending some time watching the body cam videos, we decided to call it a night and get ready for bed. We all stood up from the couch and stretched, feeling the tiredness settling in after a long and eventful day. Kara yawned and rubbed her eyes as she headed towards the stairs, while Michael suppressed a yawn and followed her, saying goodnight to me as he passed by. I sat for a moment on the couch, taking in the peaceful atmosphere and the cozy surroundings of our new home. The rain continued to fall outside, adding to the calming and relaxing vibe of the house. As I sat there, I felt a sense of contentment and gratitude wash over me. We had made it through the storm, and we had found a safe and comfortable place to call home. I knew that there would still be challenges and difficulties ahead, but for the moment, we were at peace and together as a family. I got up from the couch and headed to the kitchen to get a glass of water, feeling a bit parched after the long day. I filled the glass with cold, refreshing water from the faucet and took a long, refreshing sip, feeling the cool liquid quench my thirst. Satisfied, I placed the empty glass in the sink and headed upstairs to join my wife in bed, feeling tired but content as I ascended the stairs. As I entered the bathroom, I headed straight for the shower and quickly turned on the water, allowing it to heat up. I undressed and stepped into the shower, feeling the warm water cascade down over me, washing away the day's worries and stress. I took a moment to enjoy the cleansing feeling, the heat soothing my muscles and easing my tired body. I shampooed and cleaned my hair, then washed my body, feeling the dirt and grime of the day being washed away. I took my time in the shower, taking a few moments to just stand under the spray and let the water run over me, before turning off the shower and stepping out. I grabbed a towel and quickly dried myself off, feeling the soft fabric against my skin. I then slipped on my favorite pair of pajamas, feeling the comfortable fabric envelope my body. I then climbed into bed, the sheets cool and inviting against my skin. I pulled the covers up over me and settled into a comfortable position, feeling a sense of contentment and relaxation wash over me. As I climbed into bed and looked over at my wife, I smiled to myself as I saw her smile in her sleep. It was a sight that never failed to make my heart feel full and happy. I scooted closer to her, pulling her in and holding her close. I felt her warm, familiar presence against me, and I knew that I was where I was meant to be, safe and sound in the arms of my family. I closed my eyes and let the peaceful atmosphere of the bedroom wash over me. The sound of the rain outside and the soft breathing of my wife were the only sounds in the room, creating a soothing and relaxing ambience. I felt myself sinking into the bed, a wave of drowsiness washing over me as I prepared to fall into a deep, restful sleep. I took a deep breath, inhaling the familiar scent of my wife and the surrounding environment. I could feel myself drifting off, my mind slowly quieting and my body relaxing as I began to doze off, feeling a sense of security and contentment as I finally let go and surrendered to sleep. As my mind continued to drift off, I could feel my thoughts becoming more and more incoherent, my consciousness slowly fading away as I relaxed into sleep. The final thing I remember was the sound of the rain outside, the steady and comforting rhythm carrying me off into the realm of dreams and restful slumber. With that, I allowed myself to finally surrender to sleep, my body and mind fully relaxed and at peace as I let myself sink into the deep abyss of sleep, blissfully unaware of the world around me and the challenges that awaited me in the morning.